What I'm going to do today is I'll kind of give you an outline first. We're going to talk about the context, the collaboration with Givens Estates, talk about the broad Christian themes that we used in the stained glass windows. We'll discuss specifically the altar window over here to my right, the Cairo window here to my left, and the Hymn of Promise windows, which is in the meditation and family room behind me, and also the skylight window, the skylight cross window here. And then at the end, I'll give a little personal reflection of my experience here at Givens. What I wanted to begin with was a few nights ago, I had this dream. And I dreamed that I was a magician, and I was to perform at this great facility, and there was going to be an audience, and it was leading right up to the performance. I didn't have a suit, I didn't have a costume, I didn't have any act, I didn't have any, any of the tricks that I was supposed to have and so the dream was all about the anxiety of going in front of an audience. So I think I must be living it out right now. But what comforts me is that I'd have a costume. My wife picked out my tie, so I'm all ready to go. And I'm talking about something that I'm very, very familiar with, and that's my work in stained glass. But it is also somewhat, I thought the metaphor of a magician was actually quite interesting to me, because I think as a stained glass artist, you are a magician, because you're using light and color and texture and pattern in a way to create some really moving and interesting images. The collaboration that we had from the very, very beginning was the hallmark of this particular commission. I got my first phone conversation with Mark Bailey, and within a few minutes I think that he and I had hit it off. And then I was invited to come to Givens and have a meeting with the principal people of the design committee, which was Joe Folk, the Davidsons, Clay and Alice, and of course Mark Bailey and Ken Parton. He would come in from time to time and give us some feedback on our deliberations. So from the very, very beginning, it always has seemed to be very much a give and take and a collaborative process. And as an artist, that's really the tradition for great commissions, is that the artist has worked with the patron to come about with themes and ideas. But in the end, as the artist, I'm responsible to make sure that the windows are successful, so that 10, 20, 30 years from now, the people that come in and look at the windows will see something beautiful and meaningful and all of that. So that's really my primary thing. Now what I want to do, it's going to be a little awkward for y'all. I won't spend too much time, but I do want to walk around. I'm going to start over here first with the doors leading into the chapel. In the very beginning, the idea was to have a stained glass artwork that would introduce the idea that this is a sacred space, that you're moving from the Ashbury Commons, the Oxford Commons, into a new, separate place. And stained glass has the ability to do that. We chose this particular, it's a German glass, it's called New Antique, and it's very, very transparent, so you're allowed to see into the chapel, so that when someone approaches this room, they can look inside and see that there's activity going on. And then we worked with the grape theme, which from the very beginning has been the logo image for Givens Estates. But the grapes are put onto a wooden trellis, and in the very beginning of the design process, the wooden trellis was done in such a way that it had a cross form in it. So we were implying a general idea of grapes as the wine for Christianity, so it relates back to a Christian theme as well. And on the outside of the doors, if you haven't noticed, there's some wood carving done as a wood molding around the perimeter of the doors that was executed by Clay, Davidson, and some of his assistants in the workshop. So it was indeed a collaboration. Alice cut all the glass, did a wonderful job of interpreting my color design rendering that I prepared, so that these windows make an introduction to the other stained glass windows that we did in the chapel. And in these windows is the introduction of the gold and the green color scheme. When I was first here, the one thing that I did notice was that the interior design of the remodeling and the new construction all kind of went around this gold and green theme. I'm going to start moving over here to pick out a color scheme that would unify all the windows but also make it be a part of the overall interior design and color selection so that these windows look like they were custom made for this particular place. We started out with the Old Testament of God created the earth, and we have on the seventh day He rested. And you have the hand of God, which is a very, very traditional symbol used to depict the presence of God. And so the hand is coming out of the heavens, and you've got a rainbow. And one of the broad themes that we selected was the mountains in the bottom. If you'll notice, the mountains are continuous all the way across the bottom of each one of the windows. And part of that collaboration, being from Mississippi, mountains is a very abstract concept. You know, our landscape in Mississippi, I like to think of it as very, very subtle. And I think that the Stevens will reinforce that. You know, it's a beautiful place, but we don't have the drama of mountains and everything. So I drew the initial mountains more like the Rocky Mountains. And so Ken came in and kind of straightened us out on that. So those don't really look like the Smoky Mountains in there. If we're going to do mountains, we need to do that. So Ken brought me photographs that were taken of the Blue Ridge Park, off the Blue Ridge Parkway, and of the mountain scenes. And I actually took the photographs and did tracing paper over the photographs and traced the actual forms of the mountains themselves, so that the artist's hand is involved, but I used you know, the actual mountain forms to indicate more of a softer effect. And then we move into Ecclesiastes, in that unto everything there is a season. Each one of the windows back here has a text, and the idea would be that someone walks into the chapel and there's no one here. They don't need to pick up a hymnal, but they can read a message in the stained glass windows that would kind of key into the theme that we're trying to depict. And of course, what the mountains are famous for here on the East Coast are the fall colors. So in this particular window, it has the season of the fall with the bright, warm colors. And when we got into doing the color selection, Joe made the suggestion that the fall color starts at the top of the mountain and then it works its way down. So there's warmer colors at the top and then there's cooler colors at the bottom, which is part of that theme. In this particular window, we used fused glass, which our first major commission using fused glass was for Mills River over in the little community there. And we've incorporated it more and more and more in our work. And there are glasses that you can melt in a kiln together, and it creates this really beautiful optical effect the way the light comes through. And there's something that happened. I'm going to come over here and show this to you. I can look at it in more detail. Over here on the Seasons window, if you'll notice the way that the lettering is done, that's a silver stain technique that's been used since the 13th century in stained glass. You take silver nitrate, fire it in the kiln, and it turns the glass yellow. And I've been doing silver stain for over 30 years, and this is the first time that I've ever seen it turn green in the kiln. And you know, whatever, the best thing that ever happens in production at the studio is for something to blow up or go wrong. Because then we say, well, how did that happen? Why did that happen? You know, let's see if we can't make that a predictable accident as we go along. And I'm gonna go back and find out why that silver stain turned green, because I think it just really, I mean, I'll take credit for it, but it really was quite a happy accident in that thing. And then we introduce the Christian themes with Old Testament concepts, and then we come back and we bring in the life of Christ to the stained glass windows. And one of the ways that Christ ministered throughout His work was through preaching and telling stories and parables. So we had this, the beautiful story of consider the lilies of the field, where they don't have to worry about where their livelihood is coming from, the birds, the lilies. And then in the window, there are birds that are sandblasted that kind of fly around in this circle. And at different times of the day, I know that y'all use this room probably more in the afternoons than in the morning. And one thing that I've noticed about this stained glass window is that in the afternoon, the birds stand out more. And if you ever are in